Boston Cannons Game of the Week is powered by Boston Sports Performance Center, where performance has no limits. BSPC is a premier sports performance, physical therapy, and sports medicine center serving the Boston and Metro West communities.
Hi Cannons fans, Sean Quirk here, head coach of the Boston Cannons. This week we're going back into the archives, 2018 Cannons versus the defending champion Ohio Machine at Harvard Stadium. Explosive game by Mark Cockerton in this one. Check him out throughout the next 60 minutes as we acquired him in a trade from the Ohio Machine, and he sure put up big numbers in his debut against the Machine here at Harvard.
So the Cannons coming off of a win last Saturday here at home that knocked Charlotte out of the playoffs, beating the Hounds 14-7. Ohio, a down year after winning the championship a season ago, coming in at 3-10. And the face-off man today on your left for them is Andrew Bracey. No Greg Paskoljian today for the Machine. No Kenny Massa either. So it's Andrew Bracey will have the tough task of going up against Trevor Baptiste.
Interesting strategy by Bear Davis, stacking both players on one side to try to minimize the impact of Trevor Baptiste. And the Cannons with the advantage of Brody Merrill wide open on the crease. He stays on. He's a tremendous offensive player and really runs the field with the long pole.
Onto the field is Max Sebald, playing in his 107th and final career game, and takes the first shot of the game.
Scott Rogers handcuffed.
Sebald working out front against Ryan Keenan. Kyle Jackson to James Pennell, and he scores. James Pennell off the feed from Kyle Jackson, and the Cannons score less than 50 seconds in, 1-0 Boston.
Scott, so difficult to defend a crease player who cuts to the ball. He's moving away from the goal, but Pennell able to catch, turn his shoulders, and created space between himself and the defensive player and puts the Cannons on the board.
31st goal this season for James Pennell, as he leads the team in goals, assists, and points. Now 42 points on the year in his first season with the Cannons. And Sean Quirk, the head coach, hoping that he is a member of this team moving forward after he bounced around his first couple of years, playing with New York in 2016 and then Atlanta last season.
An example of the hockey assist, the second assist by Max Sebald, keeping the ball moving, doesn't show up in the stat sheet, but it's the play that initiates the assist and led to the goal.
3 of Boston's 4 wins have come in home games this season. Pennell try to get it to Cockerton in the middle, and now here come the Machine looking for their first offensive chance of the game. Drop back for Steve Waldeck. And now Ryan Keenan, and the Machine set up their offense. Bryce Wasserman down low, playing in his 3rd game. He had 3 goals and an assist last week against Florida. Tom Schreiber not in uniform today for Ohio, sitting this one out. Of course, missed most of the Major League Lacrosse season with a knee injury. Give and go, and a shot missing the cage, which is occupied by Nick Morocco, the defensive player of the week in the league, after he had, we'll call it 21 saves last week against Charlotte. The numbers kind of fluctuated during the week.
We had the opportunity to do several Georgetown games this year, and Nick Morocco with an outstanding senior season, really a top-flight goalie, triggered the Hoyas' playoff run, their NCAA tournament appearance, and also a left-hander.
All-American. Can't stop that one, though, and the Machine will tie things up 1-1, 2.5 minutes in.
Off the end line restart, the sprint to the goal, so difficult to defend. And here we look at, as the offensive player is going upfield, his shoulder is going away from the cage, and Bryce Wasserman able to put Ohio on the board.
Pretty talented shot there by Wasserman, only playing in his 3rd game with Ohio, and his 5th goal.
We look at the reason why Trevor Baptiste was the #1 overall pick in the MLL draft. And with Brody Merrill, a left-hander off of Trevor's right shoulder, this time he wins it right in front, makes the entry pass. And
James Fahey was in that spot this time, and then Fahey trying to give the pass to Mark Cockerton will turn it over. Mark Cockerton coming over to the Cannons earlier this year in a trade with Ohio, which sent Davey Emola to the Machine, who's with Ohio, still wears number 0.
Fahey and Merrill, Waldeck for Ohio, the advantage of defenseman, long pole, able to run the field, and with the 2-point shot, keep in mind anything 16 yards and out, as long as both feet are behind the line, counts 2. So you have to play the long poles in transition to prevent the 2-point shot opportunity.
Marcus Holman gives it to Frank Brown, playing as his 3rd game with the Machine. Burst onto the scene with 3 goals and 2 assists back in July in a game at Florida. Slipping down there behind the goal is Justin Turry. Now Holman stepped down, and he tried to go high, and it went off the post and caroms all the way out near midfield. Holman put pretty good charge into that shot. The Machine keep the possession.
And when the shot hits the goalpost or the crossbar, it resets the shot clock. So a full 60 seconds of action on offense for Ohio. Get some good touches, create the right matchup in the 6-on-6 half-field game.
Gutterding's shot got deflected, and Turry able to scoop it up for the Cannons. Send it diagonally across the field for James Fahey.
Excellent cross-field pass. Creates the quick clearing opportunity, and the Cannons go on the offense.
Penn gets a screen from Sommerfeld, and now a flag coming in. Penalty upcoming on Ohio. Shaq Stanwyck standing up behind the cage. He was tremendous in that position last week against Charlotte. He had 3 assists to go along with a goal for the Cannons. And now Sergio Perkovic with it. Draws 2.
Similar to Seaball, Sergio Perkovic, big, strong, offensive midfielder with the ability to turn his shoulders to the cage.
Good job by Brandon Mullins to keep it in the offensive side, not get the over and back. Continue to work here with the flag down. Seabald. Trying to work his way through 3 defenders. Fires up a long range 2-point shot. Rogers makes the save, and now we'll get the penalty call on Ohio and give us our first man-up situation of the game. We will see it on the other side of this timeout. 9:55 to go first quarter. Ohio and Boston even at 1. Welcome back to Harvard Stadium. Man-up situation coming here for Boston after the penalty before our timeout on the Machine. Cannons are last in the league in man-up percentage, only 18%, 7 for 39 on the season. That's off the side of the net, and then it stays free. Stanwyck had a beat on it, but loses it out of bounds.
Ohio choosing to play the short stick on the goal line extended. It's a good strategy, Scott, because in the MLL with the 2-point shot, normally on man-down defense, you coach your players, don't give up a layup, give up the outside shot, but in the MLL, the outside shot can translate into a 2-point goal. So a good stop for Ohio, and they go to offense.
The penalty on Ohio, by the way, was a too many men on the field call. Kyle Harrison served it. Penalty is now over, though, already. Just 32nd on the call. 1-1 the score. Wasserman, the goal scorer for Ohio. Penn for Boston.
Short time already on the possession.
Intercepted by Sergio Perkovic, and he's on the run in transition for the Cannons. Gets it along to Brandon Mullins. Ball down. And out with it. Looked as if Ben Randall had it for a moment. Talented rookie out of Ohio State who leads the league in caused turnovers. Picked right back up by the Cannons, though. Broken play. Cockerton, and a save by Rogers.
Excellent save by Scott Rogers going to the far pipe. And those are the 50-50 ground balls that usually determine the winner in the game. A hotly contested ground ball Scott Rogers started coming to our high school football practices with his uncle, Mike Lisak, who I coached with when he was 6 years old. Pre-game, I had a nice visit and stood next to him. I looked like half a man. He is a big, strong player. Outstanding career playing for Kevin Corrigan and Jerry Byrne at Notre Dame, and was a great high school player at MacArthur High School for Chris Burgesson, who was a player of mine at Hofstra. But Scott really worked hard at becoming an outstanding player. And Scott, you have to keep in mind that even though you're big and you fill the goal, it's all about your hand exchange, your quickness, your ability to step to the goal. So being big doesn't necessarily make you a good stopper.
Shot clock at 10. Pennell tiptoes along the crease, goes back to his right, and another stop for Rogers. Ricochets out. He'll still be with the Cannons. Restart coming for Zed Williams, playing in his 9th game with Boston. He has put in 16 goals with 10 assists.
Halfway through the first quarter, the game as advertised, Scott, both teams playing hard, great competition. And when you look at Ohio's championship last year, and certainly this year a disappointment, but you can turn it around in this league through the draft, through the team chemistry, so that doesn't necessarily mean that they will be back in 2019.
Williams feeds Cockerton for the score. 22nd goal in a Cannons uniform for Cockerton. This is his 7th game. He played 2 games with Ohio to begin the season and had 2 other goals in those games.
Excellent example of playing with your head up, the little stutter step on the dodge, and Cockerton with the little fishhook move on the crease, left hand, the easy layup. Puts the Cannons up 2-1.
He had a good World Championship for Team Canada, scored 13 goals for them. He's had a couple of 6-goal games since joining the Cannons, and also another 5-goal game. So he's really lit the lamp, so to speak, for the Cannons since coming to Boston in that trade with Ohio for Davey Emila. So 2-1 Boston, 6:38 to go, first quarter. Scott Sudikoff, Rich Donovan here with you. Getting the day started in Week 15 of Major League Lacrosse, the final regular season weekend of the year. Some huge games with playoff implications coming up later as James Pennell bounces it through the legs of Rogers for his 2nd goal.
Terrific placement on the shot against the left-hand goalie off the entry pass. He beats him to the near pipe. Again, play with your head up. Pennell, catch, cradle, shoot. It's all about getting your lower body, your front lower hip into the shot, and if your lower body's correct, your upper body will follow.
So 2nd goal of the game, 32 now on the year for the 3rd-year player out of Virginia.
We see Zach Bryant, number 81 in white, at the bottom of our screen to the left, and he has to defend the fast break. So Trevor Baptiste, even though Ohio's stacking 2 players, they still have to take away the break for Trevor if he wins it in front of him.
Baptiste staying in the offense momentarily, sets a little screen, and now will rush off for a change. Shaq Stanwyck sets up at X. He's marked by Ben Randall. And Randall is now playing in his 6th game with Ohio. He played 5 games to begin the year with Charlotte before he was traded for Matt McMahon. He's continued to play very well. 18 caused turnovers, leading the league. In his rookie season, low to high, Zed Williams slings one home, 4-1 Cannons. And this is more of what Boston did last week when they beat Charlotte 14-7.
Very encouraging to see the continued momentum after last week's game. And Zed Williams seeing the slide, but able to step back and fire a rocket past Rogers, and the Cannons on a 3-goal run.
The Cannons coming to the game today, averaging 11.6 goals per game, last in the league. But mentioned last week, scored 14. The game before, they lost to the Lizards 14-13 on the road. And now off to a good start on this one, leading 4-1.
This is the make it, take it we talk about, Scott. Score a goal, Baptiste right back at the faceoff X, gives you the ensuing possession.
Yeah, Baptiste, so far in his pro career, 50.2% entering the day today. Obviously, this past year at the University of Denver, he was 74%. And we saw at the World Championships, he was 75%. Now, the rules are similar. from the FILs to college, but there's a big change here in the MLL game, and Scotty Rogers having a tough time seeing these candid shots. Zed Williams scores another, and Boston now a 5-1 first quarter lead.
Excellent job by the Cannon coaching staff running Zed Williams through the box. He comes on the field with a full head of steam, able to stutter step and then roll back, and the release point, an experienced goal scorer knows you can use the defensive player to screen his own goalie, and that's exactly what happened there. Very difficult for Scott Rogers to see the release point, and the lead goes to 5-1. Had a great pregame visit with Tom Schreiber, who was my student at Woodland Middle School, and we joke, I remember taking him to the UMass lacrosse camp, and he certainly attended St. Anthony's High School, great career at Princeton, and had the game-winning, gold medal clinching score for Team USA in the recently concluded World Games. And he mentioned, said, Coach D, I'm still banged up from the indoor season, the NLL. He did play in Israel, but just not at 100%, and making a good choice tonight to sit this one out.
Shot wide there by Perkovic. Cannons 5, Machine 1, 4:30 to go in the first quarter. Cannons trying to finish the year at 5-9.
Tom's dad, Doug, a tremendous player at University of Maryland with Dino Matisic, Maryland national champs, and two great midfielders, both from Long Island. But the Ironmen in those days, the game was north-south, and those guys very rarely came off the field. Frank Urso, a 4-time first-team All-American, but Thomas has certainly got some great lacrosse ahead of him. Scott Rogers with the clearing pass, and the Machine looked to push the field.
Yeah, shot clock was winding down. It was a 2-point shot attempt by Sergio Perkovic. And now Ohio hasn't been on offense much here. Has it. Karalunas puts it back behind the goal, and Ohio sets up their offense. Marcus Holman, remember back early in the year against the Lizards, had that 11-goal game. Did it on 19 shots. And that pass was wide of Harrison, but picked up on the other side by Justin Gutterding, who has 14 goals in his rookie season. He goes tumbling to the turf along with Brandon Mullins. Here comes Mitch Belisle, also playing in his final game, retiring after this game, playing in his 132nd career game, 113th with the Cannons. And the defense on the other end sets up a goal for Mark Cockerton, his second. And the Cannons pouring it on early here against the Machine have a 6-1 lead. So the Cannons, in their final game of the season here at home, trying to put another win on the board. There's a look at the rookie from Duke. 14 goals, 9 assists, NCAA record holder with 212 career goals and 351 career points. And Trevor Baptiste, speaking of record holders, another face-off win for the Cannons.
Numbers for the Cannons, 6-on-5, good opportunity to push the cage. And Zed Williams chooses to back out. That time Ohio chose to play 2 long poles on the wing. As long as you have only 4 poles, Scott, you can do that. You have to put a short stick on the defensive end of the field. But by putting Young and Bryan up, they're trying to challenge it. They don't want to give up the easy win. They'd like to make it a contested ground ball. But the face-off dominance has been a key to the 6-1 Cannon lead.
2 goals apiece for Pennell, Cockerton, and Williams. That shot gets through, stopped by Rogers, and now Ohio looks to clear. This is Ryan Keenan, rookie out of Penn State, playing in his 8th game. Kyle Harrison going back onto the field.
And to this point, the shots on goal, a tremendous advantage for the Cannons. Nick Morocco has really not been tested to this point. Ohio looking for somebody who can break down the defense, create the slide, they can move the ball. 6-on-6 half-field offense is all about creating a 2-on-1.
Wasserman playing behind the goal. Out here you have Gutterding and Emila together. Emila battling, and he gets called for the push there, knocking down Alex Sommerfeld.
The moving pick, they're usually very liberal in the MLO, but that was blatant. So it had to make the call. And again, the Cannons looking to run the field.
Sommerfeld out in front of Fahey. Can't get it on frame. Fahey scored a goal last week in the game against Charlotte. Here's the thing with Emila. Yeah, he went up high there, pretty clearly on Sommerfeld.
Anytime you do anything above the opponent's shoulders, it's going to be a time-serving foul, or in that case, a change of possession.
Davey does a great job at our LSN studios breaking down this league as well as the college game. Now on the field playing today. Cockerton lost it. And now the Machine have it with less than a minute to go in the first quarter, trailing 6-1.
Cannon's doing a great job getting back on defense, 5-on-5, forcing the Machine to pull the ball out. Plenty of time here for a good look at the goal. Our shot clock is turned off. And you're hoping to score here to get a little momentum going into the second quarter as well.
Down to 28 seconds left. Holman.
They miss Tom Schreiber in the sense that he draws the double and draws the slide and makes everybody else better around him.
Shot taken wide off that feed from Holman. Wasserman comes out from X and he bounces it by Morocco. So Bryce Wasserman has both goals for the Machine here.
Nice job shooting while stepping away from the goal. And Ohio with 14.3 seconds, time to get another one. We see another solid pick by Davey Emila. And Morocco came out high but didn't really see the release point. Another example of using the player defending you to screen the goalie.
Emila sending that screen on Mitch Belisle, former teammates.
When I coached in the MLL, the Bridgeport Barrage 2002, was a 45-second shot clock. So we used to put the crash team out on the face-off, Scott, because immediately situations like this, people would go hard to the goal. And in 2005, they decided it was too short a time and a good rule adjustment to the 60-second shot clock. And that's the way it's been, as Baptiste knows he needs to go hard here.
He'll go to goal with 5 seconds. Misses wide. Still Cannon's possession. Shaq Stanwyck will restart the play for Boston.
Level of play has gotten so much better. Bigger, faster, stronger athletes.
And that wraps up the first quarter of play, where it was all Cannons. 2 goals each from Zed Williams, Mark Cockerton, and James Pennell. Bryce Wasserman, both goals for Ohio. We go to the second quarter. It's the Cannons 6 and the Machine 2 here on Lax Sports Network. 6-2 Cannons lead the Machine as we make our way into the second quarter. Lax Sports Network is the exclusive home of the 2018 Major League Lacrosse semifinals. The 2 teams heading to Charleston will be decided live on LSN on Saturday, August 11th, beginning with the first semifinal game at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, which will be hosted by the Chesapeake Bayhawks. Dallas Rattlers will host the other semifinal game. Don't miss the MLL semifinals August 11th, only on Lax Sports Network. That's laxsportsnetwork.com, and live and free as well on the LSN app. Scott Sudikoff, Rich Donovan back with you. Trevor Baptiste 10 for 10 in the first quarter, and the Cannons have this 6-2 lead, Rich.
A difference maker, a game changer. There's many descriptions you can use, but well-deserved first pick of the draft. And Sean Quirk and his staff, John Klepacki, Ben Rubio, have done an excellent job, and they're playing their best lacrosse late in the season. And even though they're disappointed they're not in the playoff mix, there are many positive signs for this franchise moving forward.
Brody Merrill, Rogers makes the save, falling back into the post as he grabbed it. Nick Morocco only had to make 1 save in the first quarter for the Cannons.
Brody Merrill is an ageless wonder. I was scouting for Greg Cannella at UMass. I saw Georgetown play, and I told Coach Cannella, this guy will chase your attackman coming off the bus. And when I coached in Team Germany in the World Games, played for Team Canada, and he was somebody we actually had on our scouting report, Scott. He wasn't a long pole that you didn't worry about. You had to treat him as an offensive force. And he has had a long career and a terrific athlete and player.
Wasserman trying to get it to Gutterding, got broken up. And then stay with the machine here with 20 on the shot clock.
Cannons have done a great job getting to the shooter's gloves and playing solid individual man-to-man defense and team defense in front of Nick Morocco.
Emila back out for Wasserman, 5 to shoot. And ball down with 1 on the shot clock. And that will give the Cannons possession here with the shot clock running out.
In those situations, he's not hurt by a quick restart, but I know coaching in this league, we always coached our players with short time remaining. Just roll the ball to the corner. We can get our defensive players on, and we won't give up transition or fast break offense. So it's a different mindset. You don't want to take a wild shot just because the shot clock is running down and allow the opposing team to get the easy save and clearing pass.
Whistle and stoppage of play.
Scott Rogers with that big body actually nudged the cage, so it wasn't parallel to the goal line and goal line extended. Cannons have been very effective team offense, tic-tac-toe, moving the ball, the hockey assist, drawing a slide, making the defense rotate.
Stanwyck stopped by Rogers.
His best save of the game to this point. Follow the head of the stick.
Now Rogers will loop it out to Ben Randall at midfield.
Effective team defense. Every time an offensive player carries the ball or the ball is in flight in a pass, all 7 defensive players, 6 defenders and the goalie should be moving.
Oh, good cut there by Frank Brown. Feed from Holman, but Brown bounced it wide.
Didn't have the opportunity to get the stick back to his left hand. Would have increased his angle.
About 3 minutes gone by in the second quarter. Scores remain the same, 6-2. Brown takes a couple of stick checks and bounces it off the side of the net. He gets delivered down to the turf by Justin Turry. And now Sommerfeld coming ahead for the Cannons.
Pressure on Ohio for their offensive possession, Scott, because the face-off dominance has created so many more possessions for the Cannons, so Ohio really needs to be efficient in their shot selection.
Kick that one away, taken by Cockerton. Rebound, though, collected by the Cannons. You mentioned the face-offs. Boston 11 for 11 with Trevor Baptiste. Of course, the Machine are on their 3rd or 4th string face-off man right now.
Flag is down.
May have had a...
So being offside. So Ohio's would be effective.
7. Yeah, Ohio has 7 players on defense right now.
It's a very good defensive strategy, but it's
not bad. And Rogers down off the rebound. Cockerton puts it home. And even with 7 defenders going against them, the Cannons still score. Hat trick for Cockerton.
Cockerton, a poised goal scorer, knew that Scott Rogers was down. Catch it and make sure you finish it. And so because it was a 30-second offside penalty, a technical foul, the penalty is wiped out by the goal and the teams remain all even.
Now, if you're Ohio, you already committed the offside. You have 7 defenders, so you might as well just keep the 7 defenders in there.
Correct. And the way we coach that is that extra player becomes the backer or the slide man. Obviously, he has no offensive matchup responsibility, so he's the player that can immediately go if a double team is required. But the bounce of the ball favored the Cannons, and they're playing smart offense.
And a hold on Baptiste, and for the first time today, Ohio will win a face-off.
The Machine will take a face-off win any way they can get it.
Ohio in their last game lost by 1 goal against Florida, 13-12. They took 67 shots in that game. 35 of them were on goal. Gutterding with a shot on goal in the back of the net. And the rookie tallies his 15th of the season. That is case in point why he was one of the best players out of the college game this past spring.
Time and room for Gutterding, and he'll finish this. Notice he steps back, hands free, a sidearm motion. Great job by our production crew on the angle. Good offense. And for the Machine, after falling behind 6-1, they're hanging around, Scott. It's 7-3. They need to contest the face-offs, try to turn it into a 3-on-3, swarm the ground ball, Bear Davis, Darryl Dealey and his staff tweaking a couple of looks up at the face-off area. But Trevor Baptiste is just a monster. And here's a 4-on-3 for the Cannons.
Fahey with the pole, fires it high. UMass graduate, not afraid to take some shots with the pole. Davey Emila picking up the assist on the goal by Gutterding.
Wonderful to see Dom Starja on the sideline for the Cannons. Dom, who was a football player in high school, and Cliff Stevenson, the coach at Brown University, convinced him.
Off the post, maybe the crossbar there by Cockerton, and it caroms out. He was that close to his 4th goal of the first half.
Dom was a football player, and back in those days, Dick Garber at UMass, Cliff Stevenson at Brown would try to recruit football players. He had a great career at Brown, the assistant, head coach at Brown, then went to Virginia. He led the Cavaliers to 3 national championships, and what a tremendous asset for him to be on the Cannon sidelines.
Turned over by Ohio. Cannons will have the ball when we come back from a timeout. 9:51 to go in the second quarter. It's the Cannons 7 and the Machine 3. The Steinfeld Trophy will not be the only hardware handed out in Charleston, South Carolina. The night before the championship game, Major League Lacrosse will announce the 2018 award winners, including Rookie of the Year, Goalie of the Year, and Most Valuable Player. Find out who was the best of the best this season at the 2018 MLL Honors live on Friday night, August 17th, only on Black Sports Network. Scott Sudakoff, Rich Donovan back with you. Cannon 7, Machine 3. Here in the second quarter of play, the only time these two teams play this season, final week of the season. Of course, it's a big day in Major League Lacrosse. At 7 o'clock today, Denver plays Atlanta. Winner of that game clinches a playoff spot. If you're Atlanta and you lose, you're eliminated completely. No chance from there. Denver could actually suffer a loss and still make the playoffs. Then they would need New York to lose their game to Chesapeake, which also gets going at 7 o'clock today. New York in a situation similar to Denver. Cockerton, his 4th goal of the first half.
Tremendous offensive set by the Cannons, the ball movement, and Cockerton, the quick release, Scott. This is a guy who's not a big physical player, but you talk about the speed and the hand release, able to catch and fire it. Good offense by Boston. You notice how they spread the field, and it all started with the successful clearing opportunity. But that's some great 6-on-6 half-field offense for Boston. Lots of positives for the Cannons moving forward.
So Cockerton now with 25 goals since joining the Cannons. They had 2 more in the 2 games he played with Ohio. By the way, at some point we'll show you a graphic about the playoff scenarios. It's a lot easier when you see it in front of you and just read it as opposed to me trying to explain it. But again, the Lizards and the Outlaws have 2 chances. They can win and they're in, or they can lose and get some help and be in. Atlanta, it's easier.
It's
just
win or go home.
Win or go home. Exactly.
Right. Talking to Bob Schoenlaw, the assistant coach of the Chesapeake Bayhawks, there at Hofstra University tonight to play the Lizards. And it's difficult because if you lose, you may play the Lizards next week. The 2 teams that are locked, Dallas is the 1 seed, right, and the Bayhawks is the 2 seed. They have both home games, as you noted earlier.
The Rattlers do play tonight as well, 8 o'clock, taking on Florida.
The conclusion of the World Games, and now with teams getting back to full strength in their rosters, we will be seeing some top-flight lacrosse action in the semifinals and the finals.
Holman.
Excellent passing lane.
Yeah.
Defensively, put your 6 in the inside passing lane. A pass to the outside, Scott, a perimeter pass is a possession, but inside passes are potential scoring opportunities. The Cannons, very effective, great look inside.
On the doorstep, Shaq Stanwyck scores. And the Cannons continuing to add on here in the second quarter. Pennell went to Muller, diagonally in front. Stanwyck, Rogers had to kind of fend off multiple fakes.
Excellent look effective team offense. The Cannons have done an outstanding job changing the field, Scott. By moving the ball quickly with cross-field passes, you force the defense to slide, and they aren't able to recover in time. There's been several high percentage shots that they've converted here this evening. So after that initial machine run to cut it to 7-3, the Cannons with 2 quick goals.
Shackelford Stanwyck, the youngest of the Stanwyck bunch, better known as Shack.
Both men and women players, an outstanding family tradition.
Ohio gets their second face-off win. Almost turned it over, though. Picked up by Bryce Wasserman, who has 2 of the 3 Ohio goals.
And there's been conversation next year about adding a 10th team with a 9-team league. Obviously, there's a bye for a team each week, so we'll see as the MLL, the explosion of the popularity of our sport, and as it grows.
2-point shot wide to the short side.
The move of Rochester to Dallas this year was very successful. Cockerton with the inside roll. Morocco leaving his feet. Didn't give him much to show.
Ground ball for Zed Williams.
You have 60 seconds on the shot clock, but you have 20 seconds to advance the ball out of your defensive end over the midfield line.
And
so
the Cannons do it with 2 seconds to spare there.
You have that clock, that interior clock that you're thinking. Your teammates can help you as well by making the call and echoing the call. Because if you fail, then it becomes the quick restart. You have to put the ball down, and it creates a potential offensive transition opportunity for the opponent.
Perkovic coming out of the box with it. Draws 2, finds Cockerton. Now Kyle Jackson with a big game last week, his best of the season for the Cannons, when he scored 3 goals and had an assist.
Very unselfish by Kyle Jackson.
And the shot clock at 4, and it's number 5 for Mark Cockerton.
A crafty finisher is the way that I would describe Cockerton. Outstanding collegiate career at Virginia, one of Dom Stage's recruits, and he has the ability in traffic, inside, and notice where his stick is. Stick in the box, above your shoulder, parallel to your head, catch, turn, and the ball is not in his stick for long. Catch, cradle, shoot.
Well, at this pace, Mark Cockerton may challenge for the most goals ever scored in an MLL game. Timeout called by Ohio here with 6:19 to go in the second quarter. And the Cannons, being led by the 5 goals from Mark Cockerton, lead 10-3. And it's certainly the Cannons trying to end the season on a good note. They win last week against Charlotte, knocked the Hounds out of the playoffs. They won that game 14-7. The game before, they only lost by 1 to the Lizards, making it tougher now for New York to potentially clinch a playoff spot. And now see what they're doing today to the Machine. Sure, they might not be making the playoffs, but right now it looks like they're going into the offseason with some good feelings.
Scott, you make an excellent point. When you combine the offensive firepower of the Cannons and the unselfish play that we've seen tonight, they're a very difficult team to defend. Add in Trevor Baptiste's face-off dominance, and you have multiple possessions. They've turned them into lengthy possessions, and by moving the ball quickly, very high percentage shots against an outstanding goalie. Scott Rogers is a big-time stopper, but tonight the shots are coming from all angles and in tight.
Now for Ohio, obviously this is a disappointing season and a disappointing game right now, but you'd have to think with the players on the field that there's at some point in this game going to be a push made by, led by these veterans, a guy like Kyle Harrison. Marcus Holman, of course, is in his 6th year in the league. So you got to think that Bear Davis and the Machine, they going to have something to say before this one is over.
Scott, I felt when I coached in this league, and I still believe it to this day, there are more players trying to get in the league than there are players willing to exit. And we have 2 great players retiring tonight, Max Seabold and Mitch Belisle. But when you look at seniors at Division I, II, and III rosters next year, and you look at the draft, and then you look at the supplemental, there will be tremendous competition among all the franchises. So there's, it's year-round conditioning, weight training, and making a commitment to the sport.
Sebald thought about taking a two-pointer.
Max Sebald's high school coach, Chris Pasuelo, told me when Max was in 9th grade, he is going to change our program, and he certainly did.
Pennell with the catch and shoots off the feed by Kyle Denhoff. And the Cannons now lead 11-3. They just are slicing the machine up.
Lots of cliches in our sport, but as we see on the replay, catch, cradle, shoot. And here Pennell steps back away from the defender, so you're actually going away from the cage, Scott, but you're creating space between yourself and the player who potentially could throw a stick check, and Pennell with the quick release.
So Pennell now with 3 and 33 for the season.
Max Sebald led Hewlett High School to a Nassau County championship and then a tremendous career at Cornell University. In the national championship game, a heartbreaking loss to Syracuse in an all-upstate final in that given year.
Shaq Stanwyck has it for the Cannons, being watched by Ben Randall. Back behind the goal with Zed Williams.
We should also note, Scott, with the 19-man roster, the fatigue factor, the machine, because of Baptiste at the X, have played so much defense tonight.
Kyle Jackson, off his left hip, skips it by to the far post against Rogers. And right now, this is an offensive clinic.
Shot placement against a lefty goalie. It doesn't get any better than this. Off stick side to the far pipe. Off hip is the most difficult save for a goalie to make. And the machine unable to get to the shooter's gloves.
Man, if you're the Cannons, you don't want this season to end right now. You want to start 2019 tomorrow.
Absolutely.
The way these last couple of weeks have gone.
Number 25 in white, Brian Carolinus, an outstanding career at Villanova. Similar to Brody Merrill, can run the field. Excellent offensive player.
Kyle Jackson with his 7th goal in his 5th game this season in a Cannons uniform. Baptiste, Carolinus is trying to hold him up. Cockerton misses high and a little bit wide on that short side there.
Change the plane,
5
right,
goals
Scott?
already.
Change the plane from high to low or low to high. That time Cockerton choosing the release point so that the goalie cannot follow the head of the stick.
I think Nick Morocco's a bit lonely on the other side of the field. He has barely had to deal with the Ohio offense.
Lonely but happy.
He's back there chatting with Bryce Wasserman, and now Ohio hopes to clear it into the offensive end. Now, we haven't talked about this yet, but the loser of this game could win the Pat Spencer sweepstakes. The tremendous player out of Loyola will be going into his senior season. The loser of this game would get the #1 pick in next year's college draft. Perkovic for 2. And it'll still be Cannon's possession. Brody Merrill and Shaq Stanwyck restart the action.
Boston spread wide on offense, very content, plenty of time on the shot clock, get some touches, spread the machine out, try to take away the slide package. Perkovic, a big, strong dodger, number 16, able to invert behind the cage.
Perkovic against Keenan. Now a switch. Bryce Young picked him up. Denhoff works against Holman. Double team comes from behind. Cockerton steps to his left, and Rogers able to corral that one.
Strong save by Rogers. Cockerton using Perkovic, who's a big, strong player, as a screen.
Holman
Machine go to offense.
ahead for Emila.
A healthy Tom Schreiber makes a huge difference in the way that the Machine play team offense and also the way the Cannons would be forced to defend them. but it's an opportunity for another player to step up.
Behind the goal, it's Gutterding. There with Holman. Gutterding still has it against Turry. Shoots it high. Pair of Blue Devils going at it there.
Working at a lacrosse camp with Andy Shea, who led the Yale Bulldogs to the national championship this year, and a great draft for Yale University with several players in the MLL, and the ability for their success this year largely attributed, Scott, to having big, strong athletes.
Rocco kicked that save out. Emila had the rebound, but taking it away was Muller. Down low, Cockerton with number 6 in the first half.
Sometimes the ball takes funny bounces, and in this opportunity, the ball is loose, behind the back, good look, but always play with your head up, and Boston with a 10-goal lead.
All Cannons here, 13-3 over the Machine in the second quarter. The 2018 Major League Lacrosse Championship game is set for Saturday, August 18th at MUSC Health Stadium in Charleston, South Carolina. Who will hoist the Steinfeld Cup as the 2018 MLL champions? Be there in person to find out. Face-off for the championship game is set for 7 p.m. Eastern Time. For tickets and information, go to MajorLeagueLacrosse.com today. We know 2 of the teams that will be fighting for a spot, hosting semifinal games next Saturday, number 1 Dallas and number 2 Chesapeake. The other 2 playoff spots are up for grabs between Denver, Atlanta, and New York. And by about, let's say 9:30 tonight, we will know those 2 teams. Denver plays Atlanta. New York takes on Chesapeake. Both of those games at 7 o'clock today. Again, Atlanta needs to win to get in. A loss and they are eliminated. Denver win and they're in, but they could lose and still make it if New York loses. And then for New York, win and they're in, but they can also make it if they lose and Denver loses. Got it? Makes sense, Rich?
Makes perfect sense. Excellent explanation.
I think in the locker rooms, it's just, hey guys, just win the game. We'll be in the playoffs.
You want to go into the last weekend with the game being meaningful. And we have 3 teams at 7-6 battling for the last 2 playoff spots. And next year, the landscape could be dramatically different. You know, the way these teams are. Bear Davis and his staff did a great job last year, and they didn't change their coaching style. It's injuries. It's the bounce of the ball. They've been competitive, but it's just a different year. But in 2019, everybody starts out 0-0, and you just take it from there.
Well, the Machine have obviously been pretty consistent. Won the championship last year, lost in the championship game 2 years ago. The year before that, they went 9-5 in the regular season. 50 seconds left in the first half. Carried ahead by Tim Edwards for Boston. Shot clock is off, and the Cannons lead 13-3. 6 goals by this man with the ball in his cross, Mark Cockerton right now.
You recall, Scott, when we did the Florida at Charlotte game, both Tom Mariano and Jim Stagnita talked to us about close games, about great goalie play, face-off domination, the ball hitting the pipe. There's a lot of variables that go into it.
He mentioned that Ohio is 0-3 in 1-goal games this year, 2-1 in 2-goal games. So they've had 4 losses by 2 goals or less this year. Obviously, you make those 4 losses 4 wins, and Ohio's 7-6 and one of those teams fighting for the last playoff spot. Down to 5 seconds left. Perkovic on the run scores. With the alley dodge, Sergio Perkovic, his 12th goal of the season, 14-3. The Cannons lead with 3 seconds to go in the half.
The split dodge left to right. Look at the release point. Gets the head of the stick back. Creates space down the alley. And the release point, the high heat. Again, excellent job by our production crew on the replay. And you see the way the Cannons spread the field so effectively.
So we'll have one more face-off here in the second quarter. Baptiste He's going to take a two-pointer wide, and the buzzer sounds, and that does it for the first half of play. Completely dominated by Trevor Baptiste and the Cannons. I think Baptiste ends up losing 2 face-offs in the first half. Mark Cockerton scores 6 first-half goals. And after the first half, 14-3, Boston. Just the way that the Cannons would draw it up here to wrap up this regular season after beating the Hounds last week 14-7.
The Boston Cannons Game of the Week is powered by Boston Sports Performance Center, where performance has no limits. BSPC is a premier sports performance, physical therapy, and sports medicine center serving the Boston and Metro West communities.
Let's look back at that first half against the Ohio Machine. As I stated, Mark Cockerton on fire. Continue to watch him in the second half. Guys like Mitch Belisle playing in his last MLL season for the Boston Cannons. Max Siebel, last MLL season. Some of those veterans really turned it up in this second half, even though the Cannons were out of the playoff hunt. Goes to show the work ethic of these guys, dedication to their team and their teammates. We'll see you back here at the end of the game with a final wrap-up.
So Carol Luna is taking the face-off against Baptiste to begin the third quarter, and Trevor now 17 of 20 in this game. Coach Davis mentioned a guy taking face-offs for the first time in this league, and that was Andrew Bracey.
I had the opportunity to talk to Trevor Baptiste, and his growth as a player, Scott, and the cerebral approach to the game. Usually when you go against a long pole, the strategy is the long pole will let you win the clamp, and then his job is to contest the ball and throw some checks. But as was evidenced by that first face-off the second half, Trevor can do that even against a long pole, can win it behind him, pick up the ground ball, then either redirect or push it. So it really does create a major issue. And if you're playing the Cannons in 2019, the first thing on the scouting report and you have to prepare for is how are we going to possess the ball?
Cockerton to Pennell. Ohio has made a change in goal. Kyle Bernlohr playing here in the second half, third year out of Maryland, playing in his 14th game. He's actually started 12 games this season.
Bear Davis made an excellent point at halftime, being short at defensive midfielder. In this league, a lot of times people think of the big names and the goal scorers, but you have to have defensive middies that can run between the lines, pick up ground balls, play defense, and create transition on both ends of the field.
Yeah, Dominique Alexander is out there now for Ohio, 23 in white. Defensively against Cockerton right now, who had 6 goals in the first half.
And the inclement weather in the New York metropolitan area was potentially going to create some issues for the Bayhawks and their roster going into tonight's crucial game against the Lizards.
Kyle Denhoff with the ball on his cross. Re-dodging. Skips it out to Sebald, who in his final game is probably pretty set on trying to get at least one 2-point goal today. He has 33 in his career, top 3 all-time in that category.
And those are 2 big roster spots that the Cannons will need to fill with the retirement of Belisle and Sebald going into 2019.
Number 85 out there right now in the blue and red is Mitch Belisle, playing in his 12th and final season, 10th year with Boston. He has played the most games in franchise history. Today is his 112th career game with Boston. Turry knocks the ball away momentarily there from Brown. Recovered though.
Scott, when you look at players coming off the college season in top physical condition, if you're an 8, 9, 10-year veteran, you've got to be in top physical shape to be able to compete against these young guns that enter the league every May.
Over and back call there on Ohio. Tim Muller lost the ball out of his stick, and the Machine able to recover it. Bryce Young out there, number 41 in white, probably one of those young players that Bear Davis hoping to get more of a look at, playing in his 9th game, rookie out of Maryland, where he was a 2-time All-American.
Dominique Alexander had an outstanding career at Ohio State and has been a great fit in the MLL in terms of being a strong, fast athlete and can shut down other teams' top midfielders. And that helps your team defense that you don't have to slide prematurely.
Holman. Saved by Morocco, his 5th save of the game, and a nice outlet ahead for Tim Muller.
Nice job on the off-stick side by Morocco, the left-handed goalie going to the far pipe.
Alex Sommerfeld brought it ahead. Now it's Stanwyck behind the goal. In front, Edwards, saved by Bernlohr. Tim Edwards had a pretty good look there, but Kyle Bernlohr, who entered the game to begin this 3rd quarter, makes the save.
Time and room, Bernlohr equal to the task. And the game now back and forth, a little bit more of an up and down pace in these possessions.
And a shot at a score. And the Machines score first here in this 3rd quarter, 14-4.
Even if you don't have a numerical advantage, 6 on 5, 5 on 4, 4 on 3, the ability to go to the cage in low numbers, if it's 4 on 4 or 5 on 5, similar to hockey when both teams are in the penalty box, it opens up the ice. The same is true in lacrosse. And the Machine able to get out, off the clearing pass, run between the lines, make the defense get back in and pick up inside out.
So 10:36 to go in the 3rd quarter, 14-4. We believe that's Sean Lawton who scored that goal, by the way. Number 58, no name on the back. Sean Lawton was in the lineup, listed as number 24.
There's an example
of a 24 out there, so I think.
Excuse me, Scott, we alluded to earlier, that time Trevor Baptiste able to knock the ball back, similar to the old knock hockey game where he knew he couldn't pick it up and run away from pressure, but he's able to get it back to the long pole.
That was Sean Lawton, by the way, playing in his 1st game with Ohio. He played 2 games earlier this season with Boston. Had 1 goal. It was a 2-pointer. So Lawton out there wearing number 58. Scores that goal for the Machine.
I joked with Trevor during the college season when he had a hat trick against Villanova if he was going to ask Coach Tierney and offensive coordinator Matt Brown if he could play extra man offense. He said, Coach D, I don't think so. But in the MLL, there's certainly no opportunity with the great offensive players in the game. We've only had the 1 penalty tonight, and a warding off call. You cannot gain a competitive advantage by using your free arm. It's the correct call.
So that was called on Zed Williams. And with 9:34 left to go in the 3rd quarter, we will take a break with the Cannons on top of the Machine, 14-4. This is Major League Lacrosse on Lax Sports Network. And then saw Atlanta, the only way they can get in is with a win.
Effective clear for Ohio, going from defense to offense. And this is where you're looking for guys to step up, dodge the short stick, try to create movement and the defense to slide to move the ball, make the next pass. Nice touch.
The extra pass and Harrison's shot saved by Morocco.
Kyle Harrison, the leader when Johns Hopkins won the national championship, a tremendous 2-way player, number 18 for the Machine. And Sergio Perkovic right here with the ball, he's really turned himself into a all-around player in the professional. When he first came to Notre Dame, he was a big, strong shooter. But in this league, you've got to be able to play north-south because of the short roster.
And he buries a 2-pointer. His first 2-pointer of the season, I think of his career, actually. And it makes it 16-4 Boston.
He immediately turned to the officials to verify, but both his feet were clearly outside the 16-yard arc. I recall Scott coaching, and Paul Gate was playing for the Boston Cannons. We were up by a goal, and I was pleading with our guys to play out on the man-up situation because of that exact reason. It can swing, and a 2-point goal is such a turnaround, particularly in a close game. It's a different strategy, it's a different mindset, and you've got, against goalies of this caliber, you've got to be able to really bring it to score from 2 points out.
Baptiste whistled there for a hold. So Ohio will get the face-off win after the first career 2-point goal by Sergio Perkovic. Has made it 16-4 in favor of the Cannons.
Ohio doing the substitution game, getting the short sticks on the field.
Wasserman against Belisle, playing in his final game. Shoots and scores, Wasserman does, beating Belisle, and then Morocco. Third goal for Wasserman, and the 7th he's scored in 3 games with the Machine.
For our young players watching, this is a great example of play full speed. Wasserman dodging, but you notice the stick protection followed the head of the stick, and all his movements are full speed, able to turn on a dime. The roll back, step away, and finish the shot against the left-hand goalie. Very impressive.
A look at Wasserman. By the way, it's a busy night of lacrosse here at Harvard Stadium after the conclusion of this Cannons Machine game. They'll have the championship game of the United Women's Lacrosse League, the Boston Storm, taking on the Philadelphia Force in the 3rd annual championship game.
Excellent ground ball and shovel pass. Good job by Bryce Young getting the ball upfield. An example there of Trevor Baptiste able to withstand and run through the checks. It was a loose ball, but able to absorb the checks and still retain the possession.
Keenan. The goal line extended. Gutterding rings it off the pipe. Picked up by Belisle. He rushes it ahead to Muller.
4-on-3 break for the Cannons.
Muller. And too high for Stanwyck.
Might have held the ball a little too long. You can make the entry pass there, Scott, and get it right back for the give and go. But right there, not only do you freeze the defense, but you also, your offensive players weren't really moving, unsure of how he was going to handle the ball. The turf bounce pass. Always a crowd pleaser.
Ryan Keenan picking it up.
Talk about the growth of our sport. Dom Starger has been such an ambassador, very active with the Harlem Youth Lacrosse program, bringing our sport into non-traditional playing areas, promoting the game.
Oh, what a shot by Justin Gutterding. Goes low against Morocco.
He's a goal scorer at any level, Scott. You look at this release point. He's off balance. He's stepping away from the cage. A quick roll back and pass, and Gutterding fading away, but it's all about your wrists and your forearms. And he delivers the scoring tally.
16 goals now in his 9th game of his rookie season. 2nd goal today. 16-6 now the score.
This is a historic venue for athletic contests. Just walking around here pregame, it's so impressive. The shadows starting to come over on across from the far side. But wow, you would talk about all the games that have been played here.
I mean, the doors that take you from the locker room to the field, I think they were built when people were smaller, because even I have to duck to get through the door and onto the field. A warning call on the Cannons, so no goal.
A concrete stadium. The seating below us, there's some chairback seating, but the rest of it is all the traditional cement concrete block. Bring your cushion with you.
Of course, hosted the MLL All-Star game earlier this season, in which the MLL All-Stars beat Team USA. Game-winning goal by Will Manny of the New York Lizards. Didn't really matter for Team USA. They went on and went undefeated in Israel and won the gold medal. Maybe a slight wake-up call, but even when you talk to those guys after that game, they weren't too worried.
The tremendous growth of our sport on the international level as well. I had the opportunity to coach in 2010 in Manchester. We had 28 teams in Denver. 2014, there were 37 teams. This year, there were 40-plus teams in Israel. Countries like Uganda, South Korea, all playing the sport, trying to grow the game in those countries.
And 46 different teams at the World Championships in Netanya, Israel. First year teams, first time there, Puerto Rico finished 8th. And Cockerton with his 7th goal of the game makes it 17-6 Cannons with 4:41 to go in the third quarter. And so Mark Cockerton might be knocking on the door of a record here in the MLL. He's got 7, and the Cannons lead by 11. (17-6) Boston leads Ohio in the season finale. Max Seaball jersey there in the crowd. He will be honored after the game in a post-game retirement ceremony along with Mitch Belisle. Tonight's MLL Game of the Week on ESPN Plus features 2 teams with championship aspirations. Now the Chesapeake Bayhawks, they've clinched a playoff spot. The Lizards have not yet. They are hoping for a win today to do so. New York is 7-6. 3-way tie right now with Denver and Atlanta for those 2 final playoff spots. Chesapeake at New York tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on ESPN Plus.
There have been some classic matchups over the years between the Bayhawks and the Lizards, and tonight promises to be no exception.
It was just before I came to Harvard Stadium, I was watching the 2003 championship game, I think it was, between the Bayhawks and Lizards, a game that went to overtime. Brody Merrill with the long pole scores his first goal of the season.
So
and it makes it 18-6.
Scott, for the goalie to follow the head of stick when a defenseman shooting the ball. The length of the pole, and there he dropped his shoulder, but as the ball releases, and it really handcuffs him. Brody Merrill is a player who loves to play offense, even though he plays with a long pole.
He's got a few goals in his career. Now, it's more known for, obviously, the defense. He's nearing 1,000 career ground balls, and he's number 1 in that category for non-face-off guys in MLL history. 18-6 Cannons, led by Mark Cockerton, 7 goals. And so we have to start kind of thinking about it here. Marcus Holman scored 11 goals in a game earlier this season for the Machine against New York, set the new MLL record, which was previously held by John Grant Jr. So with 19 minutes left, Cockerton needs 4 to tie, 5 to set a new record.
Intriguing matchup right here. Brian Karalunas, number 25 for Ohio, defending Max Seaball, number 42.
Stanwyck had an open Zed Williams, but the pass was behind him.
2 veterans that have really had outstanding careers in the MLL.
Good save by Bernlohr, and then able to corral the loose ball. Dominique Alexander carries it into the offensive end for the Machine. In his 6th season out of Ohio State, 27 years old.
It makes sense with the 19-player roster to stay on as a long pole and play some offense, particularly with the shot clock, Scott, because by the time you run to the box, the east-west action, it takes away from the length of the offensive possession. If you're a long pole, you can go to the crease, force them to defend you. Good save by Morocco. He was screened.
And Frank Brown skipped that one near the crease. Less than 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. Cannons led 6-2 after 1, 14-3 at halftime, and now have a 12-goal advantage. Getting the day started in the final week of the MLL regular season. 2 more games coming up at 7 o'clock. We've talked about them, both of them with the playoffs on the line. Denver taking on Atlanta, as well as New York hosting Chesapeake. Denver, Atlanta, and New York tied for the final 2 playoff spots. So one of those teams will be on the outside looking in come about 9:30 tonight Eastern time. Try to fit it through to Pennell, but Bryce Young with the defensive play for the Machine. And then next Saturday, the MLL semifinals, you'll find live and free exclusively on Lax Sports Network. 5:30 for semifinal number 1, hosted by Chesapeake. They are the number 2 seed. And then following that at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 o'clock Central, will be the Dallas Rattlers hosting the other semifinal game. And then the championship game 2 weeks from today in Charleston, South Carolina.
Keep in mind, the semifinal matchups could be different than the regular season matchups because of the change in rosters.
Man, that Wasserman finds the open man in front, Ryan Keenan, to score for Ohio. Keenan's 10th goal in his rookie campaign out of Penn State.
Good off-ball movement by Keenan. Again, the ability to play with your head up, move the ball, make the next pass. But the length of the indoor season, the World Games, injuries, but you can be sure that the 4 teams advancing to the semifinals will be putting the best of the best out on the field. And those will be very difficult decisions for the coaches to make because it will be a 19-man roster. And you have to look at who you're playing. Are there one-on-one matchups? Are there preferences in terms of the style of play? Baptiste wins another in front.
Baptiste to goal, saved by Bernlohr. Now, Dallas has really been the top team all season long, but there's definitely been fluctuation with the other teams. Chesapeake started off the season, I think it was 1-2, reeled off 7 straight wins, then lost a couple in a row before they beat Denver last Saturday to clinch that second semifinal home spot. Denver has been kind of back and forth a bit. They had a 6-game winning streak snapped recently. Now they've lost 2 in a row. And for a time, they look like maybe the best team in the league. Saved by Morocco, going low against Holman. Robs Marcus Holman, who not sure if we caught his reaction on the way by, but he was pretty unhappy and flustered that he couldn't score that one. Now Cockerton on the other end for the Cannons has it. Try to get it to Mitch Belisle, who was parked close, and then Penn try to BTB, and it goes out of bounds. It will be Ohio ball, but quite the sequence there. Morocco with the save on one end, and then it looked like Mark Cockerton, even though he's got a 7-goal game going, he wanted to see Mitch Belisle in his final game maybe score a goal there.
Absolutely. He was on the doorstep, might be the best opportunity he gets.
Belisle does have 3 goals in his career, 132 career games.
Bear Davis was very articulate at halftime talking about the roster changes and what you look for in the offseason. And keep in mind, the Cannons with Baptiste having the #1 pick this year, and it looks if this score holds up, Ohio will have the #1 pick next year. But the retirement of Belisle and Sebald will change it.
Belisle launching it wide of the goal, and that'll do it for the first half. We'll certainly pick up that conversation on the other side of this break. We played 3 quarters here at Harvard Stadium. It's the Boston Cannons 18, the Ohio Machine 7. You're watching Major League Lacrosse on Black Sports Network. Scott Sudikoff, Rich Donovan back with you inside Harvard Stadium. The Cannons 18 and the Machine 7 as we start our 4th quarter of play. These 2 teams finishing out their seasons here today. Will not be making it into the playoffs. And for the Cannons, trying to end the season on a 2-game winning streak. And Trevor Baptiste has been just about unstoppable at the face-off X. And they will give this to him because he was held and pushed down. And at this point, he's just going to try to get away with it against Trevor Baptiste.
The only upside of that is that it's not a fast break opportunity. But Ohio, with some new players, and Bear Davis made the point at halftime, they have some guys taking their first face-off in the Major League Lacrosse tonight. So it's been a problem, but it's been difficult for all the opposing teams facing Trevor Baptiste. When you add Brody Merrill and Fahey on the wing, and the play they've gotten from their short stick D middies, and in addition to Bear Davis talking about it, Sean Cork as well, and his staff.
Sebald took that shot. It was saved by Bernlohr, who then tried to outlet it to Waldeck, and Sebald was the one who ended up tracking it down.
Max has the green light tonight, Scott.
It's in his final quarter of his career right now, so.
He can shoot it from anywhere.
Mitch Belisle. Or no, excuse me, that's Kyle Denhoff. Got excited for a second thinking maybe Mitch Belisle is going to play some offensive midfielder maybe. Shot and a score from the left wing by James Pennell. His 4th goal, and it's 19-7 Cannons.
Against the lefty goalie, the high heat. Entry pass to the wing. We've talked about it earlier, the ability to get your lower body into the shot. Catch, cradle, and he drills it. Against the pressure, and Seabold with the veteran move, feels the pressure to his right hand, rolls back to his left, knows he has Pennell. I had the opportunity to play for legendary coach Dick Garber at UMass in the mid-'70s. Cornell was the team. Eamon McEnany, Mike French, just great teams and programs, and Max Seabold re-energized the program during his career.
Bernlohr stops Baptiste for the 2nd time here in the 2nd half.
And the Big Red had a huge win over Yale in the Ivy League Championship this year, leading into the NCAA tournament. Some classic Harvard-Cornell matchups right in this stadium. For the Machine in the 4th quarter, play hard, don't play to the scoreboard, keep the ball moving. Let's try to get some good shots on goal and make the Cannons work on defense.
We're talking back in the 3rd quarter about how, Dallas has been the team end-to-end, has been the best team. Chesapeake started slow, had their 7-game run, then had the 2-game losing streak and needed to beat Denver last week to clinch their spot. They did that. Denver's lost 2 in a row after they won 6 in a row. They're without Chris Kluche tonight, who has 40 points in 6 games in his rookie season. Morocco, the save, and then diving down, and no goal.
Disallowed on the crease violation. He made an excellent save with his offhand. Couldn't control the rebound.
A team like Atlanta started the year hot. They were 3-2 after they had their first ever 3-game winning streak. Then they had lost 4 in a row. Things looked like they were done for them. And now they've won 4 in a row and a chance to win their way into the playoffs tonight against Denver.
You want to be playing your best lacrosse this time of year, and you want to be at your healthiest, and that's difficult. Talking to Tom Schreiber pregame, and he had been banged up before the World Games, but the amount of time when you look at the MLL rosters and how many players were involved in the World Games, it was a very physically demanding 3 weeks.
Perkovic coming out from X, takes the feed from Stanwyck. And I don't think Kyle Bernlohr even really realized how that one got by him.
Big, strong right-handed move on the dodge from X. This is the advantage for our younger players watching. Catch the ball while you're moving full speed. Off-ball movement. He catches the defensive player on the back pipe, and he accelerates, catches, and is able to convert the scoring opportunity.
Cannons now with 20 on the board. Well, Boston trying to kind of bookend their seasons and their season in 2 totally different ends of the spectrum. Their first game of the year, Boston at Charlotte, they lost to the Hounds 25-7. Today, now wrapping up the season at home, have a 20-7 lead against Ohio.
We describe that as coaches as a lot to a little, but the turnaround is what counts.
Pennell to Stanwyck, score. Shaq Stanwyck, his 2nd goal. 21-7.
That's good coaching. The quick restart. Pick the ball up, look at the official, let him know you're ready to go. Brody Merrill, the veteran, and the classic 4-on-3 break. Find the open man, take the high percentage shot.
Again, if you're Boston, you wish the 2019 season started next weekend. Because
let's be honest, Scott, if you were Dallas or Chesapeake, you wouldn't want to be playing the Cannons next weekend.
Right. 2nd goal of the game for Stanwyck. 5 now on the year in 4 games since being traded to the Cannons. Baptiste, another face-off win, taking it back into his defensive end. Of course, after the game today on the field here, they will be having a post-game ceremony for the Cornell connection of Max Seabold and Mitch Belisle, both playing in their final games. Seabold, 4th year with the Cannons, his 10th year overall.
Scott,
an original pick of the Denver Outlaws.
At Boston, And we talked earlier about before college games, I always talk to the coaches, and the importance or keys to the game. They have a rookie at the face-off X and a rookie in the goal, and that is very promising in the future.
Mitch Belisle, 12th year in the league, 10th with Boston. So a couple of guys who obviously long tenure in the league, 10 and 12 years, and with Belisle specifically, most games played in the Cannons uniform.
And the Cannons will miss them in the locker room as well. The leadership, the work ethic that they present, both outstanding,
Holman,
classy players.
Marcus Holman finally scores. Didn't have a goal last week. Scores today for the first time. Makes it 21-8 with 10:29 to go.
Marcus Holman, an example that this is not a game just for big athletes. You can be a smaller sized player in physical stature and still be an impact player in our sport.
5'11", 185, 6th year out of North Carolina. Scored 17 goals for Team USA in Israel, the World Championships. You see 30th goal this season.
And we've had a flurry of goals here in the fourth quarter. Both teams continue to playing hard. And the call goes against Baptiste. If you go too early, the rule change last year, Scott, was in the MLL, the official would put the ball down for the face-off and then immediately blow the whistle. This year they take 1 or 2 steps out to create a safer situation, but it does require discipline by the face-off player not to try to time it and anticipate too early.
Here's Harrison against Turry. Goes left, shoots it up over the crossbar. Back up by Justin Gutterding. Yeah, so we've talked about it. The loser of this game, which I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's going to be Ohio. They're going to be holding the #1 pick in the college draft coming up in 2019, which by all reports, the #1 pick will be or should be Pat Spencer, the attackman out of Loyola. We will talk more about that when we come back from a break, though. 9:34 to go in the fourth quarter. The Cannons lead the Machine 21-8. It's been all Cannons since the start of this one. They lead the Machine 21-8. Final week of the MLL regular season coming up at 8 p.m. Eastern. It's the final game that'll get started. First place Dallas hosts Florida on Lax Sports Network. Following the game, stay with LSN for a complete breakdown of the MLL playoff race. Find out who made the postseason and whose season ended tonight on Lacrosse Now. Florida at Dallas, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central tonight on Lax Sports Network. And again, Rich, right before the break there, I was mentioning that Ohio, as it stands, would be the #1 pick in the upcoming college draft in 2019. And again, all accounts, Pat Spencer is that #1 guy for sure. Obviously, things could change between now and the draft with the college season. Somebody could emerge, but as it stands right now, he looks to be the guy. And it's funny when you think of Ohio because it's a team that might finish the season 3-11, but when you look at the talent, and man, speaking of talent, Mark Cockerton just scored his 8th goal. 8 goals now for Cockerton with 8:58 to go in the fourth quarter. So we're going to obviously keep an eye on that because that, at this point now, is the top storyline of this game, as he is 3 goals away from tying the single-game record and 4 away from setting a new one.
Justin Turry with the unselfish look. Some people would think, well, this is easy, but you really have to be a poised goal scorer to get to the open area, stick protection, catch, and finish. And he certainly had an outstanding collegiate career. His dad, a great player at NC State. And we had the play-on call and ball would go over to Ohio.
Saw James Fahey actually take the face-off here.
Do you decide to go for the best player? Do you go position specific? Certainly teams will take a look at the roster and figure out what their needs are, but Pat Spencer playing for Charlie Toomey at Loyola. Interesting enough, Scott, he was under the radar as a recruit coming out of high school. Really wasn't identified until his junior year, and a great pickup for the Greyhounds.
Oh, nice play by Marcus Holman.
Patriot League.
Playing like a Harvard defensive back. On the field here was Marcus Holman with that interception. And I was saying, though, with this Ohio team, they're going to finish 3-11. But when then you look at the players on the roster that, you know, have been hurt, have missed time, just putting Tom Schreiber back in the lineup, you know, is there, I guess there probably is room on anybody's team for a Pat Spencer. But I'm thinking maybe, you never know, that Bear Davis might say, hey, we've got enough talent in this spot. Maybe we swing a deal to get someone else and maybe trade down. Now,
great bargaining chip or trump card to have. Pat Spencer is a outstanding player in all phases, goal scorer and assist. Also size-wise, he's a great fit for this league, Scott.
That's Gutterding with the backhand score on the crease dive.
You see the stick protection. The head of the stick follows your head. And unlike the NCAA rules, diving is legal in the MLL. And Gutterding takes full advantage. He feels the pressure, rolls away from it, and the stick protection goes across the front of the crease and finishes the goal. We've had a flurry of goals here in the fourth quarter. Both teams.
22-9. It was 18-7 entering the fourth quarter. Now Ohio has 4 picks in the first 2 rounds of the draft, as told to me by Bear Davis this past Wednesday on Press Pass. So he's, you know, not super happy about how the season's gone, but he's looking ahead already, and having 4 picks in the first 2 rounds of the draft, you got a chance to bring in 2, maybe 3, if not 4, impact players immediately. Cockerton going for his 9th, but saved by Bernlohr.
Cannons with the 5-on-4 advantage, again making the cross-field pass, creating the offensive opportunity for Cockerton. Good save by Bernlohr, and the Machine go on the attack.
Rich, we talk about the turnover of some of these teams in this league. Bryce Wasserman can't get it on frame. And I mentioned the Cannons lost their first game of the season 25-7 at Charlotte, and now winning this final game of the season 22-9. You look at the roster, Shaq Stanwyck, not on the roster then. Trevor Baptiste, not on the roster. Brody Merrill wasn't on the roster at the time as he was finishing up the indoor season. Zed Williams wasn't on the team. Mark Cockerton wasn't on the team. I think you get my point. Nick Baracco wasn't on the team. So it is a vastly different roster construction that the Cannons have kind of put together through the year. Kyle Jackson joined the team obviously midway through the year after his indoor season. So Cannons clearly have pieces, just a matter of getting it for a full season.
As coaches, we always say the bench is a great motivator. So the competition for positions only makes your team better.
Coming up on 6 minutes to play in the regular season finale for the Cannons and Machine.
Having Dom Starge on staff, just an outstanding evaluator of talent, can see the big picture. And Sean Quirk, his leadership here with the Cannons, they will continue to excel the way they played down the stretch in this season. And we've talked about the outstanding tradition of Ohio the last several years and the way they've competed with the best of the best. So there are no easy outs in this league. You have to be ready to play week in and week out.
Yeah, I mean, you say that Charlotte, a team that will not make the playoffs, 3 of their 7 wins have come against the top 2 teams in the league.
And earlier in the year when we broadcast their game against Charlotte, they played terrific. Perhaps their best game of the season to that point, according to Coach Tom Mariano. Very unselfish play, excellent between the lines, strong goalie play with Austin Kaut. Kieran McArdle had a big game that night, along with Dylan Malloy.
In transition come the Machine, but too high for Ben Randall. Now James Fahey catches it at midfield and works ahead. Fahey to Pennell, down to Cockerton, off the post, trying to get the rebound. And again, he's working on an 8-goal game.
He tried to go near pipe against the lefty goalie and almost got away with it.
4:40 remaining in the fourth quarter in our regular season finale. It's the Cannons 22 and the Machine 9. Mark Cockerton with an 8-goal game thus far. 22-9, Boston leads Ohio. It's time now for our Powerade Power Through play of the game, and we choose one of the 8 Mark Cockerton goals here in this one, Rich.
A flurry for the ground ball, Penn able to pick it up, and Cockerton, an opportunistic goal scorer this evening. He scored from in every different fashion. His initial goals came off the crease, then some good wing shots, but he has been a complete player. Put your stick up in the open spot, finish the goal. He's certainly done that tonight for the Cannons.
Got 4:40 left in the fourth quarter. Really the only thing left to see in this game, if maybe a player like Max Sebald or Mitch Belisle can score in their final game, and if Mark Cockerton could score 3 or 4 more to tie or set the league record. Sebald takes a shot, misses the net.
You can be assured after that timeout, they drew the play up for Sebald. The left-hand drive, but he shoots it wide.
Stanwyck matched up with Tyler Pfister.
Looking
Turned
for
over.
Cockerton inside, Scott, to your point.
Dominic Alexander with it for the Machine.
6-on-5 for the Machine. Look for them to press the cage.
Merrill joining the play late here.
Dominique Alexander, very heady player, looking for the trailer. Turn back and look for the player entering who's not matched up or picked up by a defender.
Maybe Emola out in midfield. Being watched by Justin Turry. We're talking about Pat Spencer, by the way. And Davey Emola did a great job on LSN yesterday, breaking down the type of player that he is. What a shot! Bryce Wasserman diving out from the side of the crease on the backhand, scores his 4th goal of the game.
Really impressed with his performance tonight. His athleticism and his nose for the goal. He catches, he has the defender hung, and goes to the cage with reckless abandon to finish the shot. Sees the opening, not a lot of room against the left-hand goalie. But Wasserman, a bright spot, very bright spot for the Machine this evening.
Yeah, definitely a guy that has had a 3-game tryout here with the Machine, and he has scored 8 goals, and 4 of them today. So I think Bear Davis is certainly keeping that in mind. And we talked about this earlier and off the air as well, that even like a player like Bryce Wasserman, if there's not a room on Ohio's roster next year, with performances like today, there's another team that's going to scoop him up.
Obviously, the way you protect players in a draft, Brody Merrill trying to find Cockerton, but flat-footed on the feed, and it was in the length of time the ball is in the air is your recovery time on defense, and they're able to deny the passing lane.
Holman shooting wide, and Ryan Keenan flashing in front of the goal. By the way, in the goal now, Mike Nugent has come in for the Cannons, and that one slipped by him by Ryan Keenan to make it 22-11. Nugent, a second-year player out of Mercer University. And I believe this would be his debut in the pipes. I know it's this year it is. That's a thumb back through the records from last year. Not sure if he saw action a year ago. Cannons have gone through a lot of goalies this year, but I think they maybe have found a guy for the future in Nick Morocco.
I've been involved in our sport for 45 years. I can honestly say I've never been involved with a game where all 4 goalies, 2 on each roster, are left-handed.
By the way, as this game is wrapping up, mentioned that they have the ceremony for Mitch Belisle and Max Sebald off after the game, but then there's another game right now congregating behind the Boston goal. You have the Boston Storm and the Philadelphia Force of the United Women's Lacrosse League getting ready for their championship game after this one, as scoring is Gutterding and then paying the price as well.
Gutterding decided to replicate Wasserman's effort, and he goes from the other side, cross cage pass, and he backflips. That's a very difficult shot because you don't have the follow-through. He catches it lefty, keeps it in his left hand, and you wouldn't have any angle if you were shooting left-handed in a traditional way. But from that side, by having a stick on the inside, he's able to make a direct path to the goal and score.
Cockerton with his second 4-goal game of the season, 22-12, with 2:30 left.
And a young star up and coming for the Ohio Machine. A tremendous collegiate career, and he's somebody that they can build their attack around. Wasserman and Cockerton both very impressive this evening.
A slashing penalty was also called on the Cannons, a 1-minute penalty. So Ohio now on the man up for the first time today, which is 2:22 left. And Bear Davis is going to use this opportunity to set something up and see maybe how a guy like Bryce Wasserman and maybe Justin Cockerton play together in a man-up situation here.
Timeouts, use them or lose them, Scott. And unlike the NCAA and the MLL, there is always a face-off, regardless of whether it's a dead ball foul. So extra man offense or man down defense, there's always the ensuing face-off.
All right, Rich, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. Obviously, we only know 2 of the playoff teams right now for sure, Dallas and Chesapeake. So first I'll ask you, who's taking those other 2 slots? Denver, Atlanta, or New York? Who's taking those 2 slots?
With their backs to the wall, even though Bob Schoenlaw got me a Chesapeake Bayhawk t-shirt, I think the Lizards win at home tonight, and also perhaps similar to what happened to Ohio, some travel issues for the Bayhawks. Atlanta, you have to believe they're going to go out and play 120% tonight to get the W. Chesapeake runs the risk, though, if they don't win tonight. It's hard to beat a team 2 weeks in a row. So if the Lizards were and that to win or make the entry, that potentially is the next matchup. So, but in this league, as we talked about, I don't think the seeding and the draw is as important, because these teams are so talented, so well coached, and they know what's on the line. They want to win that championship. And these teams have been around the block. They know what's at stake.
Atlanta has been on a tear as of late, and their game starts much like we saw Trevor Baptiste today. Joe Nardella, the former Cannon, that Boston decided that, hey, we think we can trade him away because we drafted Trevor Baptiste, and Nardella has made a huge difference along with Scott Ratliff in the face-off game for the Blaze. And then they got Kevin Rice, who's having probably his best season of the year, and then they've had rookies Christian Cuccinello and Connor Kelly become big parts of that team. And yeah, I went on record earlier this week. I said Atlanta and Denver would take those final 2 spots. Marcus Holman drills a 2-pointer to make it 22-14.
Scott, right? Bear Davis didn't want to let the extra man opportunity go by. They ran a good pattern with several looks, and then the touch pass up top. They drew the defense, and Marcus Holman with time and room finishes.
So again, with my prediction for Denver and Atlanta to both get in, Atlanta has to beat Denver tonight, and Chesapeake will win at New York. Now, I made this prediction not knowing maybe of some of the travel issues the Bayhawks had, so,
Scott, you do such an outstanding job on the midweek show. I'm going to defer to your picks. So I'm looking forward to watching the games next week and the following week as well. You've got to be in it to win it, and certainly the 4 best teams will represent the MLL.
I'm looking forward to being down in Annapolis for that Bayhawks game with whoever they play. I'll be on the call with Mark Dixon next Saturday night, 5:30, live and free only on Black Sports Network, blacksportsnetwork.com, LSN app, and then if you got the Roku, the Chromecast, the Apple TV, Xbox, download the app. You can fire it up, watch it on your big screen TV, or however you would like to do it. Timeout was called here with 2:02 to go, and the Cannons leading 22-14. And we've talked about it a bit as this game has gone on, but Max Seaball, number 42 in blue, Mitch Belisle, number 85 in blue. Final games of their career here today, 10 and 12 years respectively in the league. Here's a look at Max Seaball's career, a 5-time All-Star, and mentioned his 2-point goals, one of the best in the league, in the league's history.
Both team players, classy performance, sportsmanship, and they've been mentors to the younger players coming into the league, and they'll both be missed. But They can hang their helmet up after knowing that they always went out and competed. And when you look at Mitch Belisle's career as well, just great individual accomplishments, but both players would tell you it's more about the team accomplishments. And you talk about the 2011 MLL championship.
Yeah, winning that here with the Cannons. There is 85, Mitch Belisle, most games ever in a Cannons uniform in team history. He's only played 19 games in the league outside of a Cannons uniform when he played for the Los Angeles Riptide. And then he came to the Cannons in the dispersal draft in 2009. Both players, Belisle and Sebald, Cornell Big Red alumni. They were obviously excited to see their school make it into the NCAA tournament this past season with that win over Yale that you referenced. And of course, Yale then goes on to win the national championship. And there's a score by Tim Muller. First goal of Muller's career. Second-year guy out of Maryland, played 3 games last year, 14 games this year. Everybody getting involved here in this one, really on both ends.
If you're a long pole and you have the opportunity to carry it right to the doorstep, you increase your shooting percentage tremendously, and that's exactly what happened. And I remain impressed with the athleticism and the play. The first game I coached in the MLL in 2002, I remember standing on the sidelines and being wowed by the speed and also being thankful I wasn't in the cage. Guys were shooting the ball 100 miles an hour. It was the 45-second shot clock. All 9 players were released, Scott. Many people don't remember this, on the face-off. So it was really 9 versus 9. There was no holding in the box until possession was called. So with the exception of the goalies, so it was literally a train wreck at the face-off X. Very physical play, and the game has changed tremendously since then. But at the same time, you had the best of the best with players. And there were only 6 teams in the league. So competition was very, very intense.
Cannons with the ball, minute 15 left. It looks as if Mark Cockerton might have to settle for 8 goals today, although he has the ball right now.
An honest day's work.
Here's Mitch Belisle. He's joining the offense here with the pole. Belisle trying to get a shot off, and he's absolutely hammered by Steve Waldeck.
The fellows will be giving him the ribbing in the locker room after that.
You can see the smile on Belisle's face as he's moving upfield. I think he took that hit from Waldeck, got up and went, yeah, I think this retiring thing is probably good right now.
I can be hanging out in the whirlpool and I don't have to come out for practice or games.
No more hits like that. Although he doesn't obviously do that often offensively, but 40 seconds left. Bryce Wasserman, again, super bright spot in the final few weeks of the season for Ohio. 4 goals today, 8 goals in 3 games.
And this is the last possession winding down here, no shot clock.
Sean Lawton behind for Gutterding, for Harrison, Brown, Holman. Everybody touching it here for the Machine. Got a 15 seconds left. Gutterding maybe looking for a 5th goal today. And Sebald and Belisle both playing defense against the young pup there and Justin Gutterding. Intercepted by Nugent with 5 seconds left. He launches it down to Kyle Bernlohr. And the final seconds of the season come off the clock for Boston and Ohio. The Cannons win 23-14. They finish the season 5-9 on a 2-game winning streak. Ohio ends the year, a year after winning the championship in the league, at 3-11. Mitch Belisle, number 85. Max Sebald somewhere in there as well, number 42. Both playing their final games today, retiring here at the end of this season, and I guess effective immediately right now. It's probably setting in right now probably for them.
To both players on their outstanding careers. Congratulations to both teams. A challenging season, win-loss record, but competing and playing hard, particularly the Machine coming out hard in the second half tonight with a short roster, and good things on the horizon for both these franchises. And for the league, now a very exciting time with 2 key games still being played right now and later on tonight, and then looking forward to watching you next week with Mark Dixon broadcasting down from Chesapeake, and the other semifinal matchup in Dallas as well. This is the big time, the big push for the playoffs.
The Boston Cannons Game of the Week is powered by Boston Sports Performance Center, where performance has no limits. BSPC is a premier sports performance, physical therapy, and sports medicine center serving the Boston and Metro West communities.
Great way to end the 2018 season there, led by Mark Cockerton with 8 points. So glad that we were able to pick him up in a trade with the Ohio Machine, his former team. So much parity in all of professional sports. But when you look back at that game, playing the defending champions and pumping in as many goals as the Cannons did, that certainly gave us a lot of momentum going into 2019. Check us out here at Boston Cannons each week for Game of the Week on Wednesdays.